Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Geronimo.
Vasquez.
So I wanted to come on and be part of the beginning of the meeting, but I'm not going to be able to sit through the full meeting. So I just want to let everybody know. But I know that I missed the last meeting, so I wanted to at least make an appearance, say my piece, and also listen to some stuff before I have to move on to my next appointment.
Thank you. for
Busy,
joining.
busy.
Trying to keep up with everything.
That's amazing.
All right, so let's look and see how we doing on a quorum here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Then I believe it is 6 o'clock and time to start a meeting. Melissa, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm just going to do one thing real quick. Kelly, I'm going to make you a co-host in case other people come. Was that all right? Oh, there we have Jessica. Hold on. We
I
got
was
it.
gonna say we're missing Jessica.
There she is. Give me one
And
second here.
Brian's not here yet, huh?
Brian is here.
Oh,
It's Barbara. I believe it's Barbara, but it's Brian.
Oh, yeah, there you go. The Bates are represented regardless. Okay.
Okay.
Jessica has the Bates Hotel right behind her.
I should come up with a funnier background.
Yeah, a little
someone,
tiny,
someone behind me wielding a knife would be a pretty good.
yeah, in the little tiny video there, that it kind of looks like it could almost be the Bates Hotel. All right, enough of the fun stuff. Let's get to work here, folks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Wilson. I'm the co-chair of the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood Area Plan Update Committee, and along with my co-chairperson, Brian Bates. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting this afternoon or this evening. Look forward to getting a lot done. We're going to start tonight with some introductions. I'd like to call off each of the members of our committee. If you could just briefly introduce yourself and say anything you think is important for everyone here to know tonight. And I will call people's names as I see them on the screen. John, you're the top left. So.
Okay, John Ruggles here, District 2, Planning and Zoning Commissioner. Enough said.
Thank you. Monica, are you still there? Or?
Yep, making a salad. Monica, District 2, enough said.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, Dave Browning. I'm in Briner Valley, Donny Park, and been here since about '06. And that's about it. Like it.
All righty. Let me see. Evelyn.
Evelyn Wani, Timberline, District 2.
All right. And then let's see, Russell West, Kelly, Jim.
Jim Clifford, District 4 Planning and Zoning Commissioner.
Thank you, Jim. Bernice.
Hi, I'm Bernice Carver. I live in the Turkey Hills area and I've been in Donny Park about 44 years. And I've worked for the county and for Gore and actually school district for a long time. And anyway, I've been real active in the community in 4-H and lots of horse activities and school activities and really concerned about our area, that this is the time when we really have to be on guard and make sure that we get this area plan to where it is in line with the survey that was done back in October, so that we don't develop into something like other areas are doing, and really need to pay particular attention to the wording, and hope a lot of people let other people know about this meeting so that they can join us, and appreciate everybody that's on here. Thanks.
All right. And Brian.
Good evening. I'm Brian Bates, co-chair along with Rob Wilson. I've lived out here close to 40 years. retired science teacher, and currently work as a naturalist. Thank you.
And looks like Sailor joined us. Welcome, Sailor.
Why, hello. Hey, I kept clicking launch meeting, and it wouldn't, so I apologize for my lateness. I am Sailor Caudill, and I love Donny Park. I love the area. I work for the American Red Cross and volunteer management.
Excellent. And Supervisor Vasquez, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Do you have anything you'd like to share to get started?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Jeronimo Vasquez, Supervisor District 2. We've been very busy lately going through our America Rescue Plan process. We approved some of the internal aspects of the plan, including HHS opening up a mental health division within Health and Human Services. So that's really exciting. The county will now be offering outpatient services. So the program's just starting, but bear with us as we get things up and rolling. It also included creating a new division trial court for the courts, so that way it can help with the backlog on jury trials. And so it will also provide, eventually the long-term end goal with that is create a court that's dedicated to mental health issues. So that's really exciting because we'll have a judge who is a mental health expert presiding over those cases. Been also busy trying to get ready for January, because in January is when our community partnerships will be applying for $5 million worth of ARPA funding. Included in there $2 million towards more mental health services with our community partners. So if you know any organizations that are doing some of the work, we have now laid out the parameters of what kind of projects can be applied for. And so it is open, and in January, we will start reviewing applications for those projects. And then the other thing to note is that our independent redistricting commission, the finalized maps will be out hopefully before the end of December on the legislative and congressional sides. On the local side, once we have those maps, we will go ahead and create three to four maps that we will start presenting to the community. And we will be having public forums. I believe we're planning on 10 public forums throughout the county, and we're trying to get all the supervisors to attend those forums, so that way we can get feedback and questions directly from the community. So that will be happening over February and March. We were originally only going to have a 30-day comment period. They just requested 60 days. So that way we have more time to go around the community and hear feedback from everybody around which maps the community would prefer. So I know that that's been a concern of folks, that there wasn't going to be enough feedback and input from the community. And so we heard you, and for that reason, we're proposing those 10 public forums throughout the county. I believe they're planning on doing 2 in each district. So I believe that's the plan. And then let's see, the other big one that I wanted to share is I've been working with Market of Dreams in the Sunnyside, and they'll be moving their relocation. They're moving to a new building. The old Redwood on 4th Street is now going to be a community marketplace. And so it's going through a renovation right now. And so the Market of Dreams has its last event tomorrow night in its current location from 4 to 7 at 2532 East 7th Avenue. At the end of the month, we will be moving into the new location, which is where the old Redwood Bar was on 4th Street behind Fratelli's. They do need volunteers this weekend. So if anybody's available and would like to support the Market of Dreams in their transition, they need 2 sets of volunteers. One at 10 in the morning this Saturday to help load up the store fixtures into a trailer and then take it to the new location and unload it. And then at 10 a.m., they need volunteers at the new marketplace space in the old Redwood to disassemble the bar and DJ booth and then put everything in a dumpster. So if you're available and can participate, we'd really appreciate it. And then the last event that I have on here is Saturday, December 18th. An event by the Family Food Center. the gift of reading, free family events for books, Santa gifts, and family activities. So please spread the word, let everybody know that we need as many volunteers as possible to help our most vulnerable families in our community. So with that said, I just wanted to give those updates and let you know we are working hard. We are trying to address all the various issues. And if there's something that we're missing or you feel we need to address further, please contact my office. Let me know. We're trying to address everything as it comes. And with that, again, just thank you everyone for all your time and effort into this process. I mean, I know you've been at it for almost 2 years now, and seems like there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I know the plan's not perfect. I know there's things that probably people would like to see a little different, but we're so close to something that we can all live with that I'm really excited and look forward to seeing the end product. So thank you everyone for your participation and leadership. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Brian, for your leadership on behalf of the 2 districts, and it's really appreciated. And I've learned a lot about the Donny Park Fernwood area through this process, and I'm taking it into account as I'm making decisions that affect your area. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Vasquez. I noticed that Liz Baldwin has joined us. Liz, would you like to do a quick intro?
Sure. Liz Baldwin, District 4, been here for 27 years on this wonderful committee since inception. And I'm glad we're working so hard, like Mr. Vasquez said, that we're going towards the end of the tunnel. And I just want to keep Donny, Timberline, Fernwood rural and dark skies and low density. And I think we're working towards that goal together.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz. All right. I saw a phone number on here, 4237. If your last 4 numbers are 4237, could you let us know who you are?
Yes, my name is Jean Ferguson. I live in Donny Park.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. I'd just like to put names with the blocks here. So we've got that. So I think that completes our introduction. Well, I missed one, and that's Melissa Shaw. For those of you that may not have joined us in the past, she is our county representative, senior planner.
Yay.
Is that correct?
Hello, yes. Thank you, Rob.
Quick intro, or is that all you need?
I think that says it all. Thank you very much.
All right, we're in for brevity tonight. So that brings up public comment periods. Okay, what we'd like, if any member of the public that's not a part of the committee would like to make a comment and share that with us this evening, we're anxious to hear that. Would like to ask you to limit it to 3 minutes of time so that we're fair to everyone. If you have a comment you'd like to share with us, please unmute your microphone and share.
Yeah, Rob, this is Russell Weedman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been living in the Donny Park Timberline area for over 40 years and lived in Flagstaff for a while. Before that, coached youth hockey in Flagstaff for 13 years and 2 years coaching the Junior Coyotes in Phoenix while I still lived in the Donny Park area. And I wanted to make a comment, has to do with LU6 that was an issue last time. And this is question 21 on the survey. Ask the community, do you agree that the area plan should encourage additional types of residential housing development, including higher residential density in order to support neighborhood scale economic development, transit, and affordable housing options in the Donny Park, Timberline, Fernwood area? 87%. I think we've gone over this a lot, have said no to that. And that also included affordable housing. You know, the community said no. And then when I look at LU6 and the way it is written, it seems to be encouraging high density housing. I mean, mainly in the rural activity centers right now, but that's where it starts. It always starts in one area like that. And I would find it hard to believe that over the next 10 or 20 years, that wouldn't expand out of that rural activity center. And even if it didn't, the community has overwhelmingly said no to that. And I do have to agree with comment number 56. And he had mentioned, or she, why are we even discussing high density housing? I mean, please listen to what the majority of the residents want. That was part of the comment that was made, you know, and I have to agree to that. I mean, why are we discussing this when the community has said they don't want a higher density housing like that? And if there would have been just a simple period after project should not be approved in LU6, if it would have ended right there, never suggested outside of rural activity centers, none of these conversations would have been going on. At the meeting last week, it would have been, when it came to LU6, would have been fine. There wouldn't have been this dark cloud of misunderstanding hanging over the whole meeting. And, you know, I must say that I just hope, like that other person mentioned in the comment, that please listen to what the majority of the residents want. And I don't understand why the committee is, you know, would even put that into the area plan about high density housing in the rural activity centers.
Russell, we're at 3 minutes, so I thank you for your input there.
Okay, well, thank you for giving me the time, and please respect what the community wants in the way these policies and goals are worded. So thank you.
Russell. Any other members of the committee, or excuse me, not members of the committee this evening that would like to share? We have another public comment period at the end of this meeting also, but anxious to hear from anyone that would like to share with us.
Yes, this is Jean Ferguson.
Uh-huh.
And I agree totally with the gentleman who just spoke. And I don't understand either why there is still any discussion at all about high density residential areas in Donny Park, Timberline, or Fernwood. It is not wanted out here. And as he said, the community has spoken, and we do not want high density living. That's about it. I want to agree totally with what he said, and just put my voice in.
Excellent, and thank you very much. We appreciate your voice and your thoughts. Any other members that would like to share something before we officially start in the discussion of the details? Hearing none, Melissa, I think we can move on to our ongoing process of reviewing the comments that we received from our open house that was conducted back in September.
This is Bernice. Could I make a comment on before we get this started?
Well, is it in accordance with the agenda, or is it something?
Well, it's kind of like a comment in general. I had a conversation with someone that works at the Flagstaff Housing Authority. And I know that we want housing out here that's affordable, but I wasn't aware that Donny Park, Timberline, and Fernwood were included in the areas covered by the Flagstaff Housing Authority. And I guess I was aware of it because years and years ago, I used to have a rental, and it was out here in Donny Park, and I actually went and put it on their list at the Housing Authority, and that's subsidized housing for Section 8. And we've got a lot of it out here. We've got a lot of it in Flagstaff, and we never talked about that in any of our meetings in the last 2 years. And I think it would be interesting to hear from people from the Housing Authority just about how much housing is available that is subsidized in the city of Flagstaff and Coconino County. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Bernice. I appreciate that. And then Melissa, I guess we can go on to that slide, right? So we're Moving along, I apologize for not having been able to attend the last two meetings. Unfortunately, work commitments kept me from doing that. I believe that we're picking up at the end of the land use section today. Let's see. Okay. And it is important to note that as we go through these comments, out of respect to the people that took the time to share those comments with us, we are providing the video timestamps for the discussion of that specific comment so they can see that it was considered and what resulted from their comments, along with an explanation behind that.
Rob, this is Evelyn.
Mhm.
This is Evelyn. I wasn't sure if you got my email this today regarding
Yes.
L6.
Yeah, our plan is to work on the land use chapter. Once we have completed our first run through it, there are both yours and a couple others comments relating to it that will go, because we'll be going back. I want to try to get through it once first.
Is there any
before we
way that we
start.
can is there any way that we can just let everybody know what my suggestion was? Because Brian Bates did ask me to do that at the last meeting.
Right. Both yourself and Bernice have provided written inputs on potential changes to sections that we've already reviewed. And what we would like to do is finish the review of land use so that we have a good overall big picture of what the land use picture looks like. And then we're going to go back and review, in particular, yours, Bernice's. Brian has submitted a comment, and I believe Russell has also. So the do-over part is going to happen after we've made it through it once, so that we're as well informed as possible before we start reevaluating. Are there any other members of the committee that have a suggestion or issue with that? Okay. Then that makes it sound like we can pick up where we left off last week.
And Rob, this just shows that what's been completed and that we're continuing to work on land use growth and development chapter.
Right.
Did you want to look at these slides or?
Yeah, let's hold off on those until we get, that's kind of all relating to the reevaluation. So let's go into the comments.
Okay, I'm going to exit then from this view.
Yep.
And I need to do a new share. And I did want to mention that last time we did skip over one comment, and that was comment number 55. So we'll need to just go back to that and I will pull it up.
Okay. Every comment is treated the same here, so we don't want to miss any.
Okay, did that show up?
It did.
All right, so excuse me while I scroll down. So comment number 55, land use growth and development. It's related to LU5 and the goal.
Can we make that a little bigger, please, Melissa?
Yeah, of course. Hang on a second. Let me figure out what's going on with my screen here. Hold on.
Excuse me, Melissa, I'd like to remind that we have people on that are on the phone, so they can't see the screen. So we need to read them all.
Yeah, I will. I'm just trying to, there we go. How's that size?
That's good.
Okay. So yeah, this is related again to land use policy number 5 and the goal. Let me go over to that. And again, excuse me for the scrolling. Okay, so here we are. The goal related to land use policy number 5 says undeveloped Forest Service land in and adjacent to the planning area is preserved. And the policy says to preserve public lands as open space, the rural growth boundaries established through the Flagstaff Area Regional Plan should be maintained in order to define the extent of developable land. And the comment number 55 is, it's extremely important for the quality of the forest, wildlife, and rural culture to maintain all undeveloped Forest Service land and not leave it subject to development. All residents should have unlocked access to federal lands.
And this is a comment, the first half of that comment, I think most, if not all of us could agree with. And the second half, we have discussed in a couple of other occasions about access to the Forest Service and the importance of incorporating that where possible in future developments. So I believe that we have pretty well addressed that particular comment. Do any other members of the committee have anything to add to that?
Rob, this is Brian. I would simply remind, this is Brian Bates. I would remind the committee that we will be taking up trails and connections which will deal with access to forest land in the near future.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments?
This is Bernice. I don't believe that we adequately addressed Forest Service access on developments that are blocking existing Forest Service trails into the forest. That needs to be something with the planning and zoning, that they look at that when there's an application that is adjacent to the Forest Service, and that that we
Bernice?
put something in our area plan about it.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple of times, I believe, Bernice, and I believe both John and Melissa have explained that what you're describing is absolutely a part of the reviews that are done for any kind of a conditional use permit, a rezone, or a planned residential development. So
You were absolutely correct about that, Rob.
Right, but I'd like to see the wording that shows that people have to honor existing trails, because I don't believe it's in here.
we've had
But
that
Bernice-
conversation also, and it's not legal for us to say people have to honor an existing trail across private property. It's
And if
private
I could
property.
just add, in the transportation section, there is a policy to maintain public access to public lands. So that's number TC 19. But we haven't gotten to that yet.
But Bernice, this is Liz. Remember we talked about that, and you can't do entitlements or favors or whatever, incentives. Remember we had a whole discussion on incentives? You can encourage them, but if somebody buys that land, legally we can't make them do anything except encourage them and give them reasons why to keep it open to access, or give them allowance to make another access for people. Remember, did you miss that meeting? Because I don't even remember that. We did the whole thing about incentives.
I remember the meeting, but we never established anything that would protect the trail.
Because we can't.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
other
correct.
places have done it. Yeah, other places have done it.
Huh.
You know, why
there is a
can't in the proposal there be an access to the Forest Service in their proposal that comes to the PSNZ?
And
Okay.
Bernice, that
I
is
would-
something that people can incorporate into a proposed rezone or conditional use permit or planned development. And it's something that the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Supervisors could require to approve those types of things, but it's not something our area plan can require.
And I'd like to add one other thing to that not only do developers sometimes ask for that, but we have to work with the Forest Service as well, because a number of these trails, they would like to stop because they create problems for management of the forest by the Forest Service. So we have had developments come to the Planning and Zoning Commission where the Forest Service has said, no, these social trails are inappropriate for this area. And the end result is they are not part of the development plan.
Rob, if I could just add, Bernice, in the transportation section, there's TC 18, which states new development should contribute to maintaining, building, and providing access and connections to public lands, trails, pathway systems. So we'll be looking at that with the transportation and circulation goals and policies.
But again, remember, Melissa, this is Liz, that when we were looking into that, everyone was telling us you can't force someone to do something.
No, but
Either-
there are some good policies and strategies in there for trying to do it where it's appropriate.
Well, it's encouraging is the word we use, I think, but
But
okay.
that's what the Planning and Zoning Commission and Planning Department will look at when we have development proposals, just like Bernice is suggesting.
Okay. If we don't have any other comments from the committee members, I think that we have adequately addressed comment number, is that 55? No, that
Mhm.
was- yeah.
I think Evelyn's got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I try to put my hand up. I'm just wondering to address that comment of all residents should have unlocked access to federal lands. I'm just wondering if we could add to the policy something like, it is illegal, just so that people know, it is illegal to make residents keep their access open and we cannot require them to keep it open. Because, you know, people might think, well, there's a trail there, I should be able to go through somebody's land. But if they read that it's illegal to make somebody keep their land open for, because there's a trail on the forest, and this plan, this area plan cannot do that. If we just have it in writing, so then people know. Otherwise, they think we just ignore them.
That's probably a good point, Evelyn, because there are situations, I believe, where people have bought property believing they have access across some other piece of land that they didn't understand could eventually be eliminated, and then become disappointed about it. So I'm not sure if there is a way to add something in our area plan that suggests that, you know, that isn't the case, but it's an interesting thought. Dave, you have something to share?
Yes, I do. Yeah, what we're talking about is educating people on the laws. And that's not really appropriate for this particular document. You know, if we want to come up with some things, a list of things and have it as a separate document, you know, fine, but you know, this is not a document that explains and emphasizes legalities.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any other committee members have thoughts
Yeah.
to share at this point?
I'd have to agree with Dave on that because it is sometimes difficult to explain what the right of adverse possession is and how it functions in Arizona, which is remarkably different than places like California, for instance. So
Okay.
This is Brian. I want to agree with Dave also that I think we're getting beyond our scope of what we can and cannot do.
Got it. So with that, then I believe, Melissa, we can move on to where we left off last week.
Okay, and that was comment number 70. Hang on one second. Comment number 70 was related to land use policy 24. And land use policy 24 is under a goal about industrial development. Industrial uses are restricted to existing industrial zoned areas. Policy 24 says information about permits from the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality and other applicable permits for industrial uses that would inform the community about potential hazards should be submitted to the county with the rezoning or conditional use application. And comment number 70 reads, I'd add water sources and consumption to this list.
And I guess the question would be back to you, Melissa. When someone is submitting application for a permit for rezoning, et cetera, especially in the industrial area. Is the water use requirements for that use a required part of that application?
It's not a required part of the application, but we do look to make sure that they have a water supply. So, and in this case, we would likely be in touch with Donny Park Water. They receive notice of all our applications. So we will be consulting with them from the beginning at the pre-application stage to understand the water availability for the project.
Melissa, I'm wondering if this belongs under water and wastewater.
It does. I think we're in two different sections here, kind of.
So the comment though was attached to land use policy 24.
That may have prompted the thought, but I don't think it really relates to LU 24. I think it definitely, and Brian, your proposed changes will come into effect or be supported, I think, by that comment
Right.
when we get to that section. So,
Could we add it to both of them?
well, I don't know that we need to be duplicating our efforts in here. So, with the committee's agreement here, I'm going to recommend that we defer additional discussion on comment number 70 until we get to the discussion on water policies a little bit later on. Hearing no objections, we'll move on to comment number 71.
Okay, actually, we're going to go down. Let me look at this table here. So now we're on the display board comments.
Okay.
Comment number 71, 72, 73, 74 were redacted from these. So we're on the display board comments.
All right.
Okay, and these, again, these were the written Post-it notes that were actually put on the boards that evening, the evening of the open house. So the first one was related to land use policy 10. And just to go read that. So policy number 10 is under the commercial goal that says new commercial developments should be well-designed, environmentally responsible, and primarily serve planning area residents. And the policy reads, to minimize adverse impacts to adjacent neighborhoods, 9 to 5 businesses are favored. Otherwise, hours of operation should be limited to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. No 24-hour businesses should be allowed. All illuminated signs should be turned off at the close of business or 9 p.m., whichever is later. And the comment on the display board says, for policy 10, turn off at close of business or 9 p.m., whichever is earlier. So they're suggesting replace the word later with earlier.
I would support that. Any other committee members agree?
I think that's a good idea because somebody might not close their business till 2 in the morning, and that really affects our dark skies.
Yeah,
Okay, we got a thumbs up from
I
Dave.
agree, yeah.
I'll agree with that one. No
I
problem.
agree also.
Me
All
too.
right. We have a informal enough people agreeing that we're going to make that change. And thank the person who made comment number 74.
Okay. All right, so then back to this, we're on the next display board comment, which was just a general comment. It wasn't really attached to a goal or policy. It says, what are the goals and policies regarding Airbnb, mother-in-law additions, casitas, and RVs being lived in addition to a single family home on a parcel?
And Melissa, it's my understanding that in the goals and policies, we don't specifically address that, but it is addressed in zoning code. Is that correct?
So what we would call mother-in-law additions or casitas, we would consider to be a guest house or an accessory dwelling unit. And yes, all of those are regulated under the zoning ordinance, as in RVs are basically not permitted to be lived in as an accessory dwelling. The Airbnb, as we've discussed before, that's something that the county at one time did have a zoning rule on, but the state has since preempted local jurisdictions from regulating those. So we don't have that rule in our zoning ordinance anymore.
Hey, Liz, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. A quick question for Melissa, maybe it goes to planning and zoning, I don't know, but when we were talking about the conundrum over in, I can't remember the street where they just built these huge complexes and some of them were mother-in-laws. Is there anywhere that says how big these casitas or these mother-in-laws, so they don't take the whole property, that it's just all building, you know, like the house? And what is that?
That's the
Is that-
zoning ordinance. And
Okay, zoning,
what
okay.
it is specifically is that the accessory dwelling unit is limited to 50% the size of the primary unit up to
Okay, wow.
up to 1,000 square feet if it's detached. If it's attached, it can be up to 1,200 square feet. So it's
Wow,
limited
that's a
that
big
way.
addition.
And no more than 400 feet distance from the primary dwelling if it's more than 4 acres, or no more than 200 feet from the dwelling if it's less than a 4-acre parcel. So there are some limitations
Okay.
that way.
Some limitations, but that's still pretty big. Okay, thank you.
This is Bernice. I'd like to comment on the fact that we have a open space requirement for the
Residential.
planned residential developments, the PRDs. And I think that what might, you know, I've been kind of going around looking at some things, and some people, especially in town, are like using up every square inch of their private lot, which I guess they're allowed to do. But I think if we're going to keep this rural and open space, that we ought to have some kind of limitation on the lot, on the lots that are being developed, like the PRDs, and have a requirement for open space on the lots, so that we don't end up having what looks like a shopping center on an acre.
So there is currently in a zoning ordinance a maximum lot coverage. And for most of the residential zones, it's about 30 or 35% maximum coverage, in addition to the setbacks.
So Melissa, could we codify that by adding that somewhere in our area plan, that 30% maximum lot coverage shouldn't be exceeded?
Well, it is codified. It's in the zoning ordinance.
Right.
She just read it.
Make it clear here, kind of up front, because I suspect that in the process is somebody would look at our area plan first and then see if it's consistent with their plans are consistent with that, and then move into their zoning. I don't know.
Hey, just a quick comment on that, Rob, that is something that at the Planning and Zoning Commission level cannot be waived. We cannot make an exception. The only way that could be done would be the Board of Adjustment. So
Okay.
the code limits even what the Planning and Zoning Commission can do. Same would apply at the level of Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
And
So it
also
sounds-
keep in mind that if you have an existing parcel that's zoned residential, then those zoning regulations will apply. It's just a permitted use at that point.
Right.
And so
Okay.
that's where that maximum land coverage will kick in. And we look at that during the building permit phase.
It sounds like that's pretty well defined and locked in right
It's
now.
pretty well established.
Well, it's established in the P and Z right now, but once this area plan is finalized, the P and Z can change their rules, correct? And they use this as a guide. So maybe if it's important to us, we
Nope.
ought to put it in here.
No, that is not correct. We cannot change that at the Planning and Zoning Commission level.
Right, but this
It-
could be
it
a
is in
guide
the
for
code.
future code.
It is in the code. The Planning and Zoning Commission cannot waive a requirement like that the way it is written into the code. And for that matter, neither can the Board of Supervisors.
John, I think what Bernice might be suggesting is not waiving something, but that the code itself can be changed at some point in the future.
Yes, you can definitely do that, but that's going to go through a considerable bit of review, Planning and Zoning Commission level and at the Board of Supervisors. And
Right.
there's plenty adequate avenues for citizen comment that would object to that. I can tell you, I certainly would.
Yeah, everything about the zoning ordinance could be changed, and we can't cover every possible eventual change in this document. Should
Rob,
that- Go ahead.
excuse me, this is Brian. I'm wondering if, to help resolve this and move on, if in our goal, we could simply add under the land use, that everything is in accordance with planning and zoning and other documents of the county.
As
And
they
in
exist
that
today.
way. Pardon?
I'm wondering if that isn't part of kind of the preface to our whole plan, is that
It may be.
the assumption we made was, and that we support, is critical to the success of our area plan, is the current planning and zoning code. And that any changes to that would need to be, factored into the area plan in the future.
I think you've got a situation where if you change the code, they're automatically a part of the area plan because you're stuck with it at that point.
Mhm. That's why I think it's important to encourage whoever is going to be changing the code in the future and using this as a guide, that we put in there that we have the open space that is required for development on all lots.
Well, this isn't an input to the planning and zoning, or the zoning change, changing the code. This is not that tool. Liz, I see your hand.
Yes, I was just saying that we were talking about the 30% in the PRDs, and then Melissa read all these dimensions that a Casianta or a mother-in-law's can be, and that's not for new development, not PRDs, but for any lot. Does that include those dimensions that she read off, includes that 30%? Or there's nothing for lots that are already built on? And that's what I'm getting confused. Like everyone goes, well, we should add the importance, like Bernice said, because planning and zoning, we know now what they want, but things change. People leave. New zoning decisions are made. And so if this is a document to guide that, then we should put in, or I think we should put in, we could get it to a vote, that we put something in there about these additions can't take over all the land, just like we're saying for PRDs. If we're allowed to do that, since they've already been built on, it's not new development coming.
Melissa,
And so, Melissa, those dimensions, does that include the 30% when you said it's this big by this big, this far away? Does that?
So two things, PRD, Planned Residential Development, is
Right.
a zoning district, right? And so if there's a new proposed PRD district, there's a minimum requirement that
Yes.
5% be set aside for open space. So that's one thing. And then another thing, for every residential zoning district, most of the zoning in Donny Park Timberline Fairway is AR, agricultural residential. For all of those existing parcels, there's a minimum, what's called lot coverage. And,
Okay.
excuse me, the lot coverage, a maximum lot coverage, and a maximum lot coverage of 35%. So that's two kind of separate things to keep in mind. And then the dimensions that I said regarding accessory dwellings, that's also for any existing property that wanted to build that accessory dwelling has to meet that standard in terms of size.
So 35% built on that property. 35% can be built, the rest has to be open space?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be patio, gardens,
Mhm.
obviously things like that, but it's actually structures. Your driveway is not considered coverage. Your patio is not considered coverage, but a building, a barn, a shed, that is considered lot coverage.
Is that in the planning and zoning or the zoning code? The
Yes.
current- Okay, well, that could change, correct?
Right, right.
Well, it could, that's been in place for a while, and it applies across the county,
Yeah.
countywide, to all the districts in the county. So that's been a pretty well established standard that, as long as I've been here, I've heard no interest in changing. And I think it was in place since this existing code was adopted in 1981.
But if it's important and this is a guidance, maybe we should, I think Rob kind of said, maybe we should put it somewhere. I know it's in the P and Z, but that many things that have been in P and Z, we reinforced by this document. I don't know if we can do it. I was thinking we could just reinforce the importance of open space within a lot, that it's not built out.
So Liz, what I had suggested, just to
Yeah,
clarify for
yeah,
everybody, is
yeah.
a preface to our plan would include a comment that says, all of this is predicated on our existing code as it stands. And that if anything were to be relaxed, we would not want that to apply in our case. Now, legally, that wouldn't hold because, legally the zoning would be allowed, but that would make it clear when someone is applying for something that now we're going against what they wanted.
So put on our intention. So put our intention down. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, beautiful.
I'd like to add to that one thing that you can't use. I really don't think you want to try using this area plan as something that drives the zoning code for the rest of the county. There's a whole heck of a lot of other territory out there that is not in Donny Park. And a lot of those people, I can assure you, are not going to see it the same way.
And I'm not suggesting that, John. What I'm saying is,
yeah, I don't
like in this specific instance, should that be changed in zoning code at some point in the future to fit? We would want to make it clear that it was still that 35% that our plan is based on, and that's what we want.
Yeah, and if there's a way that you can limit it to that within the existing code or the changes to the code, yes. And there's nothing wrong with saying that in the area plan, but you just got to remember what drives what here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rob, I agree with your suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we want to go to the preface now, but perhaps Melissa could put a note in to for us to revisit that. Or, your
Melissa or Jessica, if you could capture that, that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you. Bernice, any other thoughts on that?
I just think it's a really good idea that we address it, and I appreciate it.
Okay. So Melissa, we can move on to the next one there.
Hang on one second.
No pressure.
Okay, so the next one then is again a display board general comment, and it says bus service, a few more restaurants, shops, senior center with exercising, etc. in Timberline.
So this is a suggestion that perhaps some of our rural activity centers could be built to contain a few more services. And as they currently stand and are defined both in our plan and zoning, I believe all of those would be able to be done. Is that correct, Melissa?
That's right. Depending on the location, and then most of the commercial zoning would support those.
Yep.
And then bus service, we've talked about that in regard to transit service. So, yeah.
Right. Any committee comments on that? All right, let's move on.
All right, so the next comment from the display board was specific to land use policy 6. Policy 6, the work should leave space open, the allowance of multifamily homes, which will crowd our area. It might have been a transposition here. I'll read that again. Policy 6, the work should leave open space, the allowance of multifamily homes, which will crowd our area.
I don't know what to conclude that statement is saying.
Again, this kind of looks like the question about why are we even discussing high density or multifamily homes. That relative to that, I think it is appropriate to address them very simply because it is something that is allowed in the zoning ordinance. And what we're suggesting, the way we've written the area plan so far, is that if this is going to occur at all, which people don't want to see, that it would be appropriate. The only appropriate location would be in an activity center. We made it very plain that this is not something that should be approved via the rezoning process anywhere, but it's allowed in the zoning ordinance. So you have to address it. And then to say, well, there's only one location that's appropriate, and that might be in an activity center if you can make a case for it.
Okay, so the rest of the committee, we're going to assume then that the interpretation of this is the comment is opposing multifamily homes crowding out the area.
Yeah.
Does anyone else read that differently?
No.
You got it.
Okay. That's been a point of discussion and will be yet again later this evening yet. So I think we can move on from that comment.
Okay. The next general comment that was posted on a display board was no new development in the floodplain, dynamic nature of our floodplain.
And you know what? I chatted with that gentleman, and what he was trying to say is that what floodplain are we going with? Because in 2010, we found that our floodplain was a dynamic growing monster. So he was just concerned on, is that the floodplain the way it was before, the floodplain now? So that's what his question was about, to be, I guess, to specify, but anyways, I'm just describing what he was telling me.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Monica, could you help us a bit more? Is he saying that there should be no new development in any floodplain in the Donny Park, Timberline, Fernwood area? Is that a correct interpretation?
What he was saying is that we have the statement in there, no new development in the floodplain. And of course, back prior to July of 2010, my house was not in any kind of floodplain.
Yes.
And now my house is in where I qualify for federal flood insurance. And so his question was more, we had one thing, now we have a different thing. Am I explaining this to you the way what you were asking me, Brian?
You're making it more clear. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not sure how we deal with that in the policies, in the land use policies.
Well, and I'm curious if there's a level of floodplain that you would designate. I mean, people could still build, like I could go build up on my upper acreage if I wanted to, but it now is qualified in a certain level of floodplain. Obviously, we wouldn't want anybody building new homes in the drainages, like, peaceful and all that have developed. So is there some wording that we could add that would specify a level?
Well, the floodplains are defined by the federal government, if I'm correct. Melissa.
Yeah, you are. That's why we couldn't get flood insurance until they declared us.
Right. And as a result of that, and what we saw, as you mentioned, Monica, in July of 2010, they are dynamic and could change significantly. I don't know what we could put in this plan that could be predictive or that would address potential changes to it, since all of that is controlled by the federal government.
Well, it's also the county then also looks at the floodplains, and they are based partly on the FEMA maps, but they can also be done designated by special studies, which the county has conducted for certain areas. And those are more refined floodplain areas, but because things do change, then our engineers are constantly looking at what information they have at the time of a development proposal. And if there is something, our floodplain ordinance does allow development in the floodplain, but as Monica said, you have to design to certain standards. So it is something to consider, as floodplains will continue to likely change their boundaries. You know, we all understand that development in the floodplain does affect the hydrology and the downstream drainage. So it is a policy that's been written into your plan that development should not occur in the floodplain, whatever the dimensions and the boundaries are at the time of a proposal.
So then our plan is dynamic in the sense that it would change as the floodplains changed. If they do.
And that's what our engineers are constantly looking at, you know, understanding how things are changed. And if things appear to have, then they do have to conduct a study, and it does have to be done and approved by FEMA to be adopted.
Does anyone feel like we are not adequately addressing their comment already? Okay, Evelyn, is that your hand up, or is that, what is that?
I don't know. My hand is not up.
That's a light bulb. I have no idea where it came from.
All right, we'll move on then to the next comment.
Okay, so the next comment says lot size to stay the same.
Thank you for the succinct comment there. I don't believe there is anything in our area plan that suggests reducing the minimum lot size from what it currently is. So lot sizes should remain the same is exactly what our plan does. Does anyone disagree with that?
Well, he may have been reading where we have, if you do, for example, we've used it several times, Johnson Acres.
Mm-hmm.
And so overall, on the average, they are the same, but maybe they didn't understand. I mean, that was quite a development we had, or quite a discussion we had about that, and an education about it, which was really helpful. Perhaps these comments are more in line with not comprehending how that all works.
Could be.
I'd have to agree with Monica's assessment on that, because I think that's exactly it. And one other thing in the comprehensive plan, which this is an amendment to, the suggested minimum lot size is 1 acre. And of course, the other thing is you can't do a septic system on a single family residential property that is less than that. The health code and the required building code requirements we have won't allow you to do that. So 1 acre is it.
In the 2001 area plan, wasn't the minimum lot size 2.5 acres for a residential lot? And the PRDs are 1 acre.
I don't think that's accurate. I thought that 1 acre has been the lot size, minimum lot size for a long time, and that you'd have to go through rezoning if you had like 5 acres and wanted to change it to 1 acre lot size.
Melissa, do you have any history on that?
Well,
I'd have to pull that up. I thought that the current minimum lot size in the 2001 plan is 1 acre.
That's
I
what
think
that's
that
what
is
I recall.
correct. I think it is 1 acre, and it's very simply because of what was in the comprehensive plan, and also the requirements that you have for septic.
That would make sense.
By the way, one other thing about this, there are quite a number of lots in Donny Park that are under 1 acre. This dates back, a long time. So
Fernwood area?
No, actually Donny Park and to the east of Pioneer Valley where Dave lives.
Okay.
So on unfortunate precedent.
But is now defined as a minimum of 1 acre in our plan.
Are you talking Sunset Crater Estates?
Yeah, I think that's the name for that development.
Yeah, I had a house out there back in the late 80s. I think that actually was originally a low-income housing development.
Yep.
I'm looking at the
Just muddy the waters with that.
Yeah. This is Bernice. I'm looking at the 2001 area plan right now. It says the existing large lot zoning, AR 2.5 and AR 5 shall be retained. And then except in rare incidences as described in the following. But you know, that's saying that the minimum lot size should be 2.5 and 5.
No, it's saying that the ones that are 2.5 and 5 should be maintained.
Yeah, I agree with Rob.
Right. I'm saying that we shouldn't split down the 2.5 and 5 acres into 1 acre parcels unless they're in a PRD.
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
We voted.
But I would offer one comment to Bernice that I wish that she had been at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing for the last time, only one of two in the 10 years I've been on the commission, where we have done rezoning and we have split lots that were on the order of, I don't know, they were kind of odd sizes, but the end result was two lots in each case, smaller than 2.5 acres. That is how infrequently that happens.
So that's happened, did you say one time in 10 years?
2 times. And
Two times.
the extent of the debate was, well, I would call it a little spirited, if you would.
I wish I had been there also. I think times are different now. We've got people banging on the doors from California, Oregon, Washington, and all over the United States wanting to come here and live and develop. And we cannot accommodate everybody.
I agree with your comment.
Okay, you got no disagreement there. I'll tell you what, maybe I ought to print a copy of one of the signs that I used to see very frequently when I first moved to Arizona in a lot of businesses down in the valley. It said, we don't care how the hell they do it in California.
So getting back to the topic here, lot sizes in the 2001 code, the code or the plan suggested maintaining the 2.5 and 5s. Bernice, did you find any place where it said what the minimum was? Or Melissa?
Let me see, I'm looking.
I believe that
Bernice, what page are you on? Because I just got my book out too. What page are you on?
Oh, I just closed it. Hang on. It's in the goals and policies for residential in the 2001 area plan.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Oh.
Melissa, didn't you say that the smallest lot via code was 1 acre?
In the zoning code, no.
34.
John said that based on the
and
need for
that-
septic.
Okay.
And the other
excuse
thing
me,
is
Richard.
that minimum lot size is also what appears in the comprehensive plan. And keep in mind that this is an amendment to that plan. So essentially you already have one as part of the other.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's
so that
page
pretty much,
42. Page 42.
Does it specify a minimum lot size, Bernice?
Well, it just says that the existing large lot size zoning of 2.5 and AR5 shall be retained. Let me see if there's an.
So the answer would be no.
Oh, it says in residential policies on that page, B1
Yeah, minimum net lot size must be 1 acre or greater.
or greater.
Okay.
So we've already violated that with our less than 1 acre.
Where does it say less than 1 acre?
No, and ones that have been approved that have less than 1 acre per parcel.
But those were much older developments, but pre-2001.
Well, haven't there been some approved in the last, say, 5 or 10 years that have less than 1 acre on their lots?
No.
No, absolutely not.
And those are PRDs, but I'm talking about
Even in a PRD.
mostly the residential, because we have much more residential than we do PRDs.
But nothing's been less
No.
than 1 acre.
Nothing like that has been approved.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like the comment that we received, lot sizes stay the same, is consistent in our plan, or our plan is consistent with that comment. And coincidentally, the next comment is remarkably the same, and I'm going to suggest that we have addressed both of those now.
Now I'll just read it quickly. Lot size shall be maintained no less than 1 acre, not should.
And we've had our should shall discussion, so we can move on from there.
Oops. Okay, so the next comment was from an email. I can read this. It's a little bit long. Dear Coconino staff members, I appreciate your time to respond to my email and sending information. I still can't support a change in the Donny Park area until you, meaning the county, are able to provide protection against violations of ordinances. I just reached out to a lawyer again to ask why my name was told to one of our neighbors, and there's an address that I was the one who complained. So you, as a county, are willing to take the blame if we or our animals are harmed, threatened, etc. I mentioned several times that they were dangerous. And this isn't the county, and these aren't my ordinances. If any names should be on the complaints, it is yours. I am truly scared, and I'm sorry I've ever asked for your help to resolve 2 situations in our neighborhood. I won't do it again. I'd rather move than be a part of keeping Coconino County a safe and good community to live. I've added to my calendar about the open house on Tuesday, 28th.
All right, this sounds like a very unfortunate circumstance that is outside the scope of the area plan, other than where we have already suggested that enforcement of existing laws and codes should be pursued. Does anyone have additional comments relating to this particular comment?
I think we added on that. I don't see it, but we said in a manner that is safe and fair to both parties. I think it's really important to protect the people that are reporting, especially health code violations. We've got people that are living in RVs and dumping onto the land. And I mean, there's just a lot of, I think we need to keep the citizens safe.
And just to remind everybody, your enforcement goals and policies are at the end of this chapter.
Okay. I think we can move on to our next comment.
The next comment was, again, an email. We do not want dense housing.
I think we've heard that.
The next one, the rest of these are also email comments. Why is Copeland designated as a rural activity center? Please keep Copeland out of commercial development.
So the rural activity centers were defined prior to even the 2001 area plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, and they're designated in the regional plan.
Right. So the answer to that would be sometime back prior to 2001, planners determined that rural activity centers would be located in specific locations, and that has controlled the development in this area ever since, and will continue to do so under our existing area plan guidance.
And I'll tell you one other thing that's going on. The regional plan is in the process of its updating. Melissa is the planner who is working with that at the county level. And it would be entirely appropriate for anyone who looks at this the same way to forward their comments during that revision of the regional plan. I know it's seemingly senseless to have it now that the Chevron station is down there at Campbell and Highway 89. It just, the two don't fit together very well. So I would encourage anyone to comment during the process of the revision of the regional plan on this.
Any other committee comments on that in response to this input?
Yeah, this is Evelyn. I'm just wondering how big is each area center
Rural Activity
I mean, a
Center?
rural activity center, different, are they different sizes or are they all the same size?
They are different. There are guidelines for them, and we're going to go into the details of that as soon as we get through this before we get into the rediscussion topics so that we're all as well informed as possible. So
Okay,
great question, Evelyn. And if you don't mind holding off for just a little bit, we'll get you a really good answer to that. Any other comments relating to this input? Okay, Melissa?
Okay, so the next comment is I don't want any businesses out here.
Thank you. We appreciate that input. Current zoning and laws don't necessarily agree with you, but we understand your sentiment. Any comments?
I have a comment that almost 90% or 87% of the people that took the survey were in agreement with that.
I think we've heard that comment before too, Bernice. Okay, Melissa?
Okay, so the next comment is no housing developments west side of 89, especially in Timberline area. No housing developments west side of 89, especially in Timberline area.
So I believe the majority, if not all, of the land west of 89 in the Timberline area has been developed to its fullest potential already. So the good news is for this commenter, I believe that is exactly what's going to happen, is no new development.
Well, isn't the Forest Service already zoned for AR 2.5 behind Timberline?
That Forest Service land is Forest Service land though, and outside our area plan boundary.
Right, it is right now, but if there's a Forest Service trade, it's already been rezoned by the county and the Forest Service to prepare for development.
I don't know if prepare for development is the right.
That really isn't correct because it would initially be open space, and then you'd have to go through the rezoning process after that to do anything else, any kind of development. So
I thought in one of our presentations, we talked about that being rezoned to AR 2.5.
And that's correct. There is some Forest Service land currently zoned AR 2.5 and other is not zoned. So there is a mix of zoned and unzoned Forest Service land. If an unzoned piece of Forest Service land was exchanged for development, anytime land like that is brought in, it's automatically zoned open space. But yeah, Bernice is correct. There's a mix of open space, or rather not unzoned and then zoned for service land.
Even think, well, without looking at the zoning map, I believe that Forest Service that is to the west side of the Timberline area and right off of Rob's backyard. I do not believe that is zoned AR right now.
I don't think it is either. I think the AR zoning is to the east side. We could pull up the map if you wanted to see it.
I don't think so, because this comment is relative to the question that came up about rezoning the property on the north and west corner of Campbell and Highway 89. That was a proposed storage facility for RVs, and that didn't fly very well at the Planning and Zoning Commission. We looked at what the area plan asks for and complied with that. It did not get rezoned.
And I think the next comment relates to specifically to that, John. That was a good segue in there. And
Okay.
helps us maybe perhaps better understand the previous comment, since they're both from the same person. And basically, in the following comment, she's suggesting that what you had mentioned, that our RV park storage is not acceptable, but what is currently proposed there apparently is acceptable to her. So
I should read that, Rob, then?
yeah, please.
School for disabled adults to train to work in public sector looking to go in on 89 and Campbell. That is acceptable, better than an RV park that has been mentioned in the past. So 89 and Campbell is, recall, it is not a rural activity center.
No. And the land that this is being proposed for is a currently zoned residential, right?
Yeah, it's zoned AR 2.5, so there you
But
go.
a school or education would be allowed in residential zone with a CUP.
Right.
I will add that I believe that Center for Teaching Disabled Adults, they are not pursuing buying that property on 89 and Campbell.
Okay.
So that's irrelevant at this point.
So I believe the two comments that we have been discussing kind of in tandem here are addressed as best they can be already in our area plan, unless someone has a difference of opinion here. Okay.
Okay, so the next one was again an email comment. Is Donny Park and this area beyond Flagstaff now to become like downtown and have more single homes crammed together like boxes or rush of fast food stores or industry? I'm truly hoping that the questionnaire that went out and was answered with no's by the majority for increased growth in this area will truly be considered by the planners who will determine what happens in this town and area.
And I would like to assure that commenter that we are doing our very best to do exactly what she's asked us to do. Any other comments on that input?
I kind of feel like we could limit the rural activity centers to not include the four corners of an area. Having 20 acres in every rural activity center is, I mean, that's a lot of development. And I don't really feel like we're listening to the majority of the people that responded to the survey.
Bernice, if you'll look at the, well, we're going to go to the map shortly of the rural activity centers. But that's the maximum, and that's under a optimum condition. And I think you'll see that a lot of the rural activity centers are not that size, and they're not squarish as we kind of envision them as we were talking about earlier.
Right, but we'd still have the same number of square feet, even if it wasn't a box shape of a square. I'm just concerned. I really don't like the idea of the multi-unit housing in there, especially with everything that has been presented to this committee over the last 2 years.
We've heard that quite often. I think we're all aware of it, and I think we're going to move on to that once we're through with the rest of the comments.
That is correct. Okay, Melissa, next comment, please.
Okay, the next one, what purpose will it serve to build even more of those high density homes out this direction, even further from town, when folks will have nowhere to work or a way to get to town to work?
And I think that's one of the many considerations that we have been all pondering when we evaluate what is the appropriate mix of development out here. And so I would like to assure that commenter that is an ongoing consideration as we move through these discussions.
Okay. The next comment, I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate being able to share my fears and sadness with you regarding the rapid growth of what was once the town of my dreams. I can adjust to the changes that have already occurred. I just fear that too many changes will destroy this area.
Bet we could get a unanimous vote amongst the committee here on that particular comment.
Okay, and then the final email comment from the open house. As I have expressed in several meetings, I feel that we need to review our work and make sure it is in line with the wishes of the community as expressed in meetings. The October survey and the input we have received during our meetings, as well as other community members. Brian suggested that I write down, or I think this is a comment.
This is from Bernice.
Okay, it's an email comment.
Okay.
So this, we do have comments, there we go, from Bernice that are online to look at in a minute.
Yep. And Bernice, that's our plan here, is to first do a little bit of preface education and then get into the details of each of the written comments that have been provided by yourself, by Evelyn, by Brian, and by Russell.
Okay.
So
Could we take a little break first?
our plan was to go until 8 this evening, is that right?
That was what we had
Yes.
scheduled.
If we take a little break, then we're not going to have much time left. Can any other committee members in favor or opposed to breaks?
I say we press on.
How about 2 minutes?
Press on.
I'd say continue on.
I
Bernice,
agree, because I think we've already gone down a repetitive drain and we're not going to get to it anyway.
okay, we're going to keep moving on here. And so Melissa, if you could go back to our opening PowerPoint and that first slide that discusses rural activity centers, I'd
Will
appreciate it.
do. Let me find that. Okay. There's the first image.
Okay, so what I'd like to do here, we're going to get into more detail, especially as it relates to land use item number 6. And I thought it was important because there seemed to be some lack of clarity or understanding of exactly what a rural activity center is, specifically where they are and what is or is not allowed in them. And so I asked Melissa to put together a couple of slides that could help us all better understand that before we get into the detailed discussion of that. So we're all operating from the same point of information here. The rural activity centers are, as we mentioned before, something that's been defined for us many, many years ago. So they exist and they're going to continue to exist. There's development on all of them that are consistent with the design and plans of what a rural activity is supposed to be. Melissa, could we go on to a couple of the next slides that show the specific? Oh, okay. Well, I'll back up here. So as we mentioned previously, they are limited to 5 acres on each side of the intersections, a maximum of 20 acres each. And there currently isn't any specific definition as to how far from a specific intersection the rural activity center could extend, other than the fact that 2.5 acre minimum lot sizes along those areas typically will limit how far from the intersection it can be, because you can only have so many of those in a row before you've exceeded that 20 acres or 5 acres per corner. So we wanted to talk about what could be in a rural activity center. One thing that has just recently been built in Flagstaff that came up as a potential thing are what we call bungalow style housing. And these, I think, are built up on Schweitzer Mesa. So that would be something that would theoretically be possible in a rural activity center. Apartments, townhomes, and condos are also potentially available or could be built in these areas. And Melissa, I think you have definitions of what an apartment is and a townhome and a condo.
I do. I did not put them on the slide
Oh, okay.
presentation. I can read those.
Well, why don't you, just so that we're all informed here?
Sure. So an apartment is actually listed in our zoning ordinance under dwelling multiple. And so that is a building containing 3 or more individual dwelling units or a combination of 3 or more separate dwelling units on one lot or building site.
Okay.
Okay. And then a duplex, which was, I think, one of the other styles that was mentioned, is probably what you would guess. Hang on a second, if I could turn my pages in the right direction, I could find that.
I could probably find the.
I've got, so a duplex is a single separate structure containing 2 dwelling units of the same type, each of which has direct access to the outside.
right?
That's duplex. And then I think you were interested in knowing what a townhouse.
I've got that one. Townhouse shall mean a single-family dwelling that shares a party wall with another of the same type.
Mhm.
And then finally, condominium shall mean an estate in real property consisting of an undivided interest in common in a portion of a parcel of real property together. This is just a bunch of legal
It's
gobbledygook.
basically for ownership.
Yeah. So those are the types of beyond single family housing that are potentially possible to have in our rural activity centers. I believe that's correct, right, Melissa? All of those in theory could be put into our rural activity centers.
Well, it would have to have either residential zoning that would support that, which would be multifamily residential zoning. Right now, there is no multifamily residential zoning in your area plan. Those types of units could go in a mixed use development, which would have to be tied with commercial. So that's the definition of mixed use.
All right. And let's see. Our existing area plan does not change anything substantially from the 2001 area plan with respect to what can or cannot be done inside these rural activity centers. Is that correct?
It does not, from the policies that have been drafted so far, then there wouldn't be any significant change as far as allowing additional multifamily. It would still require, as we were just talking, a rezoning. So your rezoning policies would apply.
Right. So knowing those things, I think as a committee, the thing that we need to do now is look at how we can maintain the character of Doney Park while still allowing some flexibility and defining what that might look like, including, recommending restrictions for rezones or CUPs on any kind of multifamily developments with things that would incorporate ideas like not exceeding current residential height limits. So making sure nothing is built any taller than a single family home could already be built at, or densities that don't exceed a specific level so that it maintains that rural character. Or if we were building a specific type of facility, that the appearance of that be consistent with our area and not just be... Go ahead, Jim.
Excuse me, this is Bernice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the 2001 area plan on page 44, under letter C and number 5, the development of new multiple family condominiums, duplexes, apartments, townhouses, or mobile home parks projects shall not be approved.
But isn't there an exception under that?
No.
Okay, I'm showing
That's on page 44.
And is that relating to internal to the rural activity centers or anywhere in the rural plan area?
I'm assuming, well, this is all PRD developed, or no, that's with the one above it.
And I'm sorry, I don't have that document with me here.
Residential policies. It's in the residential policy. Let's see, there's it's residential policy 2C wait a minute. 2C, wait a minute. It's number 5. Instead of 2C, it's residential policy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just residential policy number 5 on page 44, near the middle of the page.
Okay, I apologize that I don't have that document available to.
It's there. I'm looking at it. You're right. It's number 5, Bernice.
I'm
Thank
not,
you.
not questioning that, Liz.
Oh, I know, I was just agreeing.
So
I have a question for Melissa.
Yes.
So Melissa, this is Brian. Bernice was saying that that was under residential. Does that mean it's under residential zoning? And does that differentiate it from a rural activity center, which is commercial?
Would you mind if I just stop this share and I can pull up the page that she's reviewing?
Sure.
Oh, that's perfect.
Hold on.
because
Bernice,
I
give
was
me the
just going
page
to the
number
web to find
again.
it.
Page 44,
Okay, hold on, I'm right there.
number 5.
Got it. All righty, let me reshare. Hang on a second. Okay, did that display?
Yes,
Okay, so this, I'm gonna just scroll up a bit.
make
to
it just a
see-
little larger too, if you could, please.
Okay, hang on
Thank
one
you.
second. How does that look?
Good.
Okay. So it's under the major heading of residential policies. And number 1 talks about existing large lot zoning shall be retained. Number 2 is in relation to zone changes. And then this is 3, 4, 5. And this is just under a residential policy, the development of new multiple family condominiums, duplexes, apartments, townhouses, mobile projects should not be approved. So this is similar to your LU6 that you're now looking at.
Well,
LU6 allows it. How can it be similar? It's the
no,
opposite.
hold on, because this is under residential.
Right.
Rural activity centers are commercial.
Where in the 2001 area plan under commercial does it allow?
No, I
Apartments and
disagree with you.
condos.
I think she started with, we're under, in this statement is listed under residential. Is that accurate?
It's, so looking here, it's under your goals and policies, your current plan, residential goal and residential policies. So it's a residential policy, and then LU6 is also listed under residential policy. So it is LU6 is different than and then this number 5.
Right. I think, but the question here is, and Brian, I thought for sure I had read somewhere too, is there a difference in the 2001 plan where it addresses it for the rural activity center development?
That's exactly what I'm driving at, Rob.
Where does it say it?
I don't recall specifically. I thought I recalled reading it, and I don't have the document open with me here. So I'm asking, I guess,
I'm looking right now.
this is still under residential though, right?
Correct.
Are you thinking of all the stuff that was about commercial and how it could be developed and what it needed to look like?
Right.
Yeah, so that is in a different section.
Yeah. Commercial goals.
And here's the detail about the rural activity centers right here.
Why do we not have apartments in rural activity centers right now?
Page 37, Melissa,
Page 37 has it.
37 has commercial land use.
In this document, page 37 is text.
Right, there's no policies.
Well, the policy, we just saw the policies. They're,
We were there.
Yeah.
so look back down on page, hang on one second. This is page 45.
Commercial goals.
Okay, I'm going back because that's all rezoning and residential. So commercial begins on page 45. Right? And then this is where it describes the rural activity centers.
And then,
And then it goes down to talk about rezoning from residential to commercial.
which is discouraged. Okay.
And only low water consuming commercial uses not exceeding 25,000 gallons of
Okay.
water per month shall be given consideration. Using the word shall.
Melissa, we gotta slow the scrolling or tell us what we're doing here.
Okay, so I was just, yeah,
You're-
so that's what I was gonna ask you, did you want to go back to the presentation?
No, what I'd like to do is scroll down a little further in commercial policies and look at some of those goals and see whether any of them address any type of residential in the rural activity centers. The land is within activity centers, the land adverse impacts the neighborhood, minimize zone change. So this is for a rezone, so 2 doesn't apply. 3, commercial activities. So multifamily would fit, would agree with 3 if it were planned that way. Spot changes don't apply in this case. So, okay, only the water. Okay, can we continue on then? Request for commercial assumption with the land areas needed for the plan. Yeah. Environmental impacts. Yeah. Commercial density type businesses that one. So this is all businesses. None of this is residential related.
So Rob, my memory is a little bit shoddy at times anymore, but I do not remember us having a conversation about, which we've had in this committee, that the multifamily stuff can be a possibility in a commercial thing. When we had these conversations before, we were pretty much, black and white.
It was pure commercial.
Or pure residential. And so that whole conversation that we had, that in one of these zones that you actually could put housing into it, that was a new concept for me. And that's why that conversation was so important about, do we have to mention it to then say, yes, we know this is something that can go under this type of an area, but we don't want it or whatever, because before, black or white.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, Monica. And Melissa, I think we can go back now to the original presentation.
Okay, hang on a second.
Real quickly, Melissa, is there anything beyond 13? Commercial and residential zone policies.
Commercial zone policies. So that's the opposite of what we're looking for.
That's correct.
Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Oh, I think we're done.
Okay, that was helpful for me. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
And committee.
Okay, go back to the presentation then.
Yes, please. So I was incorrect when I stated that we were being consistent with what the previous plan stated. We are addressing the possibility that other opportunities exist in these rural activity centers. There were several comments in the beginning of our meeting from people about asking, why are we even talking about it? We didn't address that at the time, but I would like to now. The reason we are is because it can happen. And because it can happen, we want to make sure that what does happen is as consistent as it can be with ours and our neighbors' views of what this neighborhood should be like. And so things like height restrictions, things like designs with varying setbacks and those types of things are the things that I think we ought to be talking about, as opposed to saying, pretending that we can somehow stop this type of development with our area plan, because that simply isn't possible.
And one other thing beyond that.
Why isn't that possible?
Just a moment, Bernice, John, could you repeat that, please?
Yes, I will. Because multifamily housing, as you think of it, is allowed under the zoning ordinance. So it is, you've got to address it one way or the other. And in doing so, what we need to say, or what we are saying is, we do not want to see it, and it should not be approved. And if you're going to approve it, the only suitable place is within an activity center. And by the way, one other thing that goes with that, design review is also required. And public input is very important for something like that, especially with something like multifamily housing, should it ever occur or be proposed.
Thank you,
So,
John.
you know, it's there, you have to address it. Rob summed it up very well at the beginning of his comments, far better than I did.
Okay, Bernice,
Yes.
your comment was?
Well, my comment was that we don't have this now. And what prevented it was our area plan and the zoning that resulted from our area plan. And I don't see why we can't put it back in our area plan like 90% of the people in Donny Park, Timberline, Fernwood want to do.
So zoning didn't happen as a result of our area plan. So you're incorrect in making that statement.
I thought this is a guide to the zoning code.
No, the zoning code is the zoning code, and that is entirely independent of the area plan. Changes to zoning, so changes from one type of zoning to another, not to the zoning code, are what the area plan informs.
And one other thing, I think that the statement we have in the current area plan proposal goes beyond what was in the previous area plan that we're updating. It just simply states multifamily housing or similar projects should not be approved. It is stronger wording than what is in the 2001 area plan.
Agreed.
I agree, John.
I think number 5 is stronger than that, the development of multi-unit housing projects shall not be approved. That is pretty strong. It has the word shall too.
We can't do that.
Bernice, I would like to ask you a personal favor if I could. I believe all of us on the committee are intimately familiar with your desire for what words you would like to use. We have all been extremely patient, and we have all spent an awful lot of time listening to you continue to disagree with the rest of the committee, despite the fact that we've already taken a vote of the committee and the majority have agreed that we are going to follow the county supervisor's guidance in the drafting of this plan and use the word should. Any further discussion of the word shall is not beneficial to anyone here. And I would like to personally ask you to take a break on that. Is that fair?
That's fine. That's fine. You know, I'm more concerned about going along with the survey and the wishes of the people of the community.
And you're not alone, Bernice. I believe that we all are.
I hope not. I hope not. And I don't think I am.
No. Okay. So Melissa, can we go on to the next slide here? We're going to talk about what each of the rural activity centers currently look like.
Right.
Excuse me. This is Rural Activity Center 1, which is the one out by I-40. Small strip of land right there, all zoned commercial. Really no opportunity for growth whatsoever.
And
Can we
just
move on to 2?
to note the size, the total commercial zoning is 8 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so Rural Activity Center 2 here, this is the one at Townsend and Townsend and
Lumberjack.
Oh, Lumberjack. Okay, yep. So a total of 10.55 acres, all there on the one side, basically, except for that one little sliver of Townsend, Winona. Total of, like I said, 10 acres, so less than half of what the maximum would be. And there isn't any reason to believe that any of these should increase any, because we have thoroughly addressed the fact that rezoning from residential to commercial should not happen in our area plan already. So going on to number 3. So this is the Copeland Rural Activity Center. And one of the other things to keep in mind is most of these rural activity centers are pretty well built out. This one, all of the commercial land already has commercial use on it. The northwest corner is county-owned flood district and, well, actually flood control district owned, I guess, to be correct, and unlikely to ever be anything other than what it is. And the rest of the land around there is residential, so it is well under the 20 acres and won't grow. And then 5.
And remember, this is where your rezoning policies would apply to this type of scenario where there's not 20 acres yet, but there's a little bit of room left.
Except that we discourage any kind of change from residential back to commercial. And then this is the
Silver Saddle.
Silver Saddle one, kind of long and skinny. And in this case, 15 acres. And going on to 6. So now we're at Burris.
Well, can you hold off, Rob, and go back to Silver Saddle? I'm
Sure.
trying to see what's possible and what is it. So that one, that Silver Saddle, there isn't anything there either, because that's pretty much taken by the store, the gas station, the tavern,
There's a small segment down in the southeast or southwest there, kind of, that right where it says 6.41. That's
Right.
vacant, I believe, right now.
okay, but anything above, going north on that
Yeah.
8.4, that's taken by the storage area north, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, the red is the commercial zoning.
Right, and then that little piece of red 1.03 is where there are a few mobile homes already. And so then the only area in this one is just under the 6.41 acres,
Right.
where there's like almost like a church or something back in there.
I think that's where the, one of the propane companies is.
It's just
Yeah.
south of that.
Yeah, but south of that, there's a couple of churches, or
That-
there's one church or something like that.
That's the old nursery.
Yeah.
That's the old nursery that was in there years ago.
There's a pagoda there with the nursery that we used to be the
Right.
nursery.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's that area. The churches are down
Oh,
further,
they're-
Right.
further
Okay.
towards towns of Winona.
All right, thank you.
And the mobile home park extends into the brown too, not
Right.
just the red.
That's, manufactured housing is that
Yeah.
zone code there. So moving on to 6 then, which is the Burris Lane one.
Excuse me, could we please look at 3? I skipped 3 on here and I was wondering what it was and where it was.
Sure.
But-
Let's go back to 3.
So 3 is not on here because that's at the school, and that is a civic activity center. There's no commercial zoning there.
Okay, that's why. I was
that's it,
wondering.
yeah.
where I
Silver
lost it.
Saddle on Cokefield Road.
Okay, thank you.
So here we are at Burris, and I believe all of this is developed.
So there's a total of 31 acres at Burris and below of existing commercial. It may be developed, but we would say that we're not, some of this may be underutilized, so to speak, but we haven't done a look at that.
And then our last one, I think, is 7, and this is all the way down at the
boundary
border of the city
Mhm.
on either side of 89, and there's very little development in that particular section.
This is where the coffee shop is and
There's Mary's Cafe and the,
Citigo, or
Isn't there a gas station there too?
yes.
yeah, it's a big gas
And
station.
the granite,
Buddy-
Northern Arizona stone.
Right.
Eddie's
Oh.
Dwelling
Mm-hmm.
and the pot, isn't the pot shop?
Yeah,
in
the
there?
pot store's right next to the coffee shop, yeah.
And the small engine repair and R&R automotive.
RNA.
No,
R&R's in
R&R.
town.
Oh, R&R. Okay, RNA is up further. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so my question would be is what keeps these activity centers the size they are, and what would make them so that they could grow?
The size they are right now is defined because of the commercial zoning that applies to them and internal to them. So that's what's defining the size. In order for them to grow, the surrounding lands would have to be rezoned. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I said that we have fairly thoroughly covered in our plan already that rezoning residential to commercial should not be done. So there shouldn't be any growth to the existing rural activity centers.
Brian, Rob, if I could clarify though, you know, the rezoning policies do set out the limits of a total of 20 acres. So there were, I think, 2 activity centers, for instance, number 5, that has almost 16 acres currently zoned. And then also 4 has just over 16 acres currently zoned. If the current policies would apply to future rezonings, then the total 20 acres couldn't be exceeded.
Mhm. And didn't we amend that to limit it to 5 acres at each corner?
Right, right. And then there's a distance associated with that as well. So some of these you can see, you know, like here or here down by the city, you know, there's obviously more than 20 acres, but those have been zoned that way for a long time. I don't know exactly when those zonings occurred, but here nothing could change. There would be no rezoning here, for instance, based on that policy.
Okay. So that was kind of the overview that we had hoped to get done and then go into the detailed discussions of LU6. Based on the time right now, we're not going to have an opportunity to do that because I want to preserve some time for public comment and additional committee comments. So I appreciate everyone's patience with us in helping to better inform our way forward with the discussions of LU6 at our next meeting. Do we have any other questions relating to the material we just covered? All right. Then Melissa, if we could move on to the next slide there, which should be, we're still working on land use and development. This is our overall big picture schedule. Our draft plan review is happening and we're looking forward to having a final plan out for public hearings and final review sometime early spring.
This is just another way of looking at the schedule.
Much more creative. And then following an awesome holiday season, I hope everyone has, we will schedule our next meeting for January the 13th. That will be starting at our normal 5 p.m. time. And we will pick up where we left off, discussing the written inputs from Bernice, Evelyn, Brian, and Russell. Next. I would like to thank any members of the public that are still with us at this point and invite any of them that have something they would like to share with us to please do so at this time. I'd like to remind you there is a 3-minute limit. Any comments from the general public? All right, hearing none, I'll move to the committee and look for any committee members' comments. Oh, come on. Somebody. I'm just kidding.
Just a good discussion. You kept us on track.
Yeah.
Much appreciated, Rob. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree, Rob. You did a good job of keeping us on track. And we actually got further than what I thought we might, even though we wanted to had a further goal. I do want to share with folks that my name is not Barbara, but I use her Zoom access. So that's why it comes up as her name.
Brian, if you want to be Barbara with us, that's okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And not hearing any other committee comments, I would like to thank all of our committee members and all of the general public, plus all the county staff and others that have assisted us with all of the hard work we've been doing for your participation tonight, and look forward to sharing some more quality time with you on January the 16th. Thanks very much, and I'll have a happy holiday.
Rob,
January
I think that was
13th.
January 13th.
It is the
January
13th.
13th, correction, you're right.
Right. Good deal.
Thanks all. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays and a great
Yeah.
discussion and teamwork tonight.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks a
Dave.
lot, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Oh,
everyone.
wait, Evelyn, there you go.
I certainly
Oh.
appreciate your input.
Haven't forgotten the
so
pizza dog.
Thanks.
It's kind of late, but okay.
Sorry.
I'll have it.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's never too late for pizza.
Never too late for, you're right. It's never too early either, Jim. All right,
That,
bye.
that's
Super
right.
breakfast.
Everybody, have a Merry Christmas, everybody, and
Merry
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. I'm going to stop recording.